Greetings, dear viewers! I'm Quill Quickcard, and welcome back to Katawa Shoujo. Last time, I nearly had another heart attack, possibly. Oops. I fell asleep. For how long? What time is it? I'm feeling a little lightheaded, and I keep blinking compulsively. Pushing the curtain aside, I squint my eyes against the unfiltered light pouring in from the window. The texture of the canvas feels nothing like the wind did before. The nurse looks up from his work, sitting exactly where he was before. How are you feeling? I can't really tell, so I don't answer anything. I'm feeling kind of groggy from falling asleep at such a weird time. Hopefully I don't look too weird. What time is it? Me croaking the question to gain some orientation, the nurse looking at his wristwatch before answering. Things seem to happen in slow motion. 10:15! I try to think for a moment what that means, but I'm not really sure. You didn't answer my question, Hisao! Oh, fine. Climb down from that bed then and let's see how you are doing. I try to do exactly that, only to sway dizzily when I move too fast. The nurse moves to support me by an arm and sighs. Stand up too quickly is what I was going to say. Just sit there, I'll check your pressure to make sure. My good intentions sure lasted for a long time. I shut up, embarrassed with myself, while the nurse gets busy with an old-fashioned contraption in my arm. After a couple of minutes, he puts it away, looking neither pleased nor unhappy. You're all right. Head stopped spinning? Yeah. Good. And how are the contents doing? You didn't show very good judgment out there, Hisao. In my defense, the character took it upon himself to act far beyond what I had intended. I swallowed the retort I was going to make. It's what I was thinking myself, but hearing it stated by someone else makes me want to protest. What he's saying is not pleasant to hear. Doesn't make him any less right. No, sir. He nods, still looking as neutral as he was before. It would be easy to be angry with him if he said, told you so, or something, but he doesn't. I can try to help you keep your health, but ultimately the last call lies with you. Hopefully this little episode will be something that'll remind you of that. Here, a note for your teacher to avoid an interrogation. I take the slip of paper he's offering and then make my leave as I can't think of anything else to say, nor even really want to. Stay out of trouble, you hear me? I don't think it was anything but a scare, but next time could be different. I hear you. There is some way to get to the school building straight from the auxiliary building, but I'm not keen to find out and possibly get lost, so I go out from the exit that I know works. I stop at the stairs of the auxiliary building, deliberating for a moment between going to the dorms to get my books and stuff and going straight away to the class. The sun stings my eyes, so I head toward the dorms. The halls are quiet as the courtyard was, naturally so since everyone is in class. I knock lightly at the door of 3-3 and push open the door when Muto calls from the other side. Sorry I'm late. 15 pairs of eyes turn to me. Good morning, Nakai. Muto seems to be somewhat confounded by my coming in late, as if I interrupted his flow or something. Judging from the rambling lectures his classes tend to be, that might be the case. I pass him the note the nerd gave me. Muto takes it with a nod and reads it quickly. He lifts his eyebrows and gives me a stern look that doesn't say anything, just nods solemnly again. I shrug and he gestures at me to run along, so I naturally do. The class goes on lazily. I think I'm starting to get the rhythm of the school. I have even stopped worrying about taking notes and being overly attentive. The first days, I was pretty high-strung in class. Mudo finishes his lecture about electricity early, but continues without a pause about the festival. So, as you know, the festival is on the day after tomorrow. I hope everyone's projects are going to be successful this year. Have a good time, but also, come Sunday, please keep the meaning of this festival in your minds. Games... Of course. Games and fried food! Everyone bursts out in laughter, and so do I. Yes, thank you, Mikado. But what I meant more was the remainder of his sentence is buried beneath the ring of the lunch bells, and everyone starts packing their things. Mudo deliberates for a moment, but since almost nobody seems to pay attention anymore, he gives up and sits down. It's crowded in the hallways, or as crowded as hallways in this school probably get. Most of the students seem to be heading down for the cafeteria. Normally, I join the flow and grab a lunch for myself, but today is different. Today I've been invited to lunch on the roof. An odd location, but that's where I was told to go. Fortunately, I managed to find shelter from the storm in the lee of the classroom door. Eventually, the torrent subsides, and I step tentatively out into the hallway, only to be met by Emmy, who comes flouncing down the hallway like a cannonball. Hey! Hi, So! Great timing! I have a super extra lunch today, as promised. Let's go upstairs. The stairway to the roof is a little dilapidated, but it's clearly been used recently. At the top of the stairs is a door, complete with missing padlock. I wonder who the intrepid individual was that removed the lock. Emmy shoves the door open and steps beaming into the sunlight. Suddenly, a tall, dark stranger appears out of nowhere, standing imposingly in front of us. Emmy flinches back, almost falling down the stairs. Eek! Hello. Yipes! You scared me, Reen. Wait, isn't she... Hello. Noticing that Reen is speaking to me, Emmy looks curiously. You two know each other? I look confusedly at Emmy. She's that friend of yours? Reen has turned her gaze towards the clouds drifting above the school. I didn't know you knew this person, Emmy. The awkward silence lasts only for a few seconds until Emmy lets out a tiny giggle, shrugging the coincidence off. I invited Hisao for lunch. If you know him, that's just better. Oh? Does this mean I don't get food? Or did you invite him for lunch without the lunch? Neither. I have food for 3. Nice thinking. They walk to the other end of the roof while I stay at the clock tower for a while, taking in the atmosphere. There is nobody else here but us. I guess the roof is not as popular as it is in other schools. A few run-down benches and tables are scattered around the edges. Perhaps in an attempt to make the rooftop look less desolate. I swear I yawn every time I record this series. The small pebbles covering the roof rattle beneath our feet. I peek through the chain-link fence to take a look at the school grounds and beyond. Students are strolling in pairs and groups around the quadrangle and at the cafeteria. A few delivery trucks are driving past the school towards the convenience store nearby. Somewhere, a watchdog barks at a passerby. Somehow, when I look towards the town center, the small town feel strikes me very strongly, almost palpably. That hectic lifestyle of big metropolises seems so far away and foreign here. Nobody has to run to catch a bus like their life depended on it, or get their senses overloaded by the neon lights and traffic jams. I feel surprisingly optimistic about this new life of mine, looking at my new hometown, even if it's going to be mine for only one short year. Finding out about my illness and having to move away from home all came so suddenly, I haven't had time to think how I feel about it. When I step out of the shadow of the clock tower to the open, I feel warmth touching my back. The sun shines from a perfectly clear cerulean sky. A cool breeze sweeping over the rooftop makes me shiver, but only briefly. The wind carries the scent of trees and flowers, not smog and car exhaust like it used to just a few weeks ago. Emmy settles on a bench with Reen in tow and produces one big and two small lunch boxes from her bag. "Come on, Hisao, what are you waiting for?" She is beckoning me to join them, making room on the already small bench. I seat myself on the corner of the bench to take as little space as possible. It's pretty cramped, but somehow all three of us fit on it. Impressive view. Emmy suppresses a giggle and places a lunchbox in front of Reen, and hands another lunchbox to me. "Here you go. Lunch is promised." Homemade, no less. I'm impressed. Wow, this looks really good. "Thanks. I make them myself when I can." Conversation dies off as I set about the business of feeding myself. Taking a few bites, I glance up and notice Reen deftly opening the lunchbox and popping a forkful of food into her mouth using only her feet. Even though I've seen it before, I can't help but be impressed at her dexterity. It's also a reminder of the sort of place I am in right now. Will I ever get used to sights such as this? Can't decide if getting used to such a thing would be a good thing or a bad thing, either. Does getting used to this place mean that I've given up on being a normal person? Nah. Every time I right-click. Or does it just mean that I'm becoming more understanding about those around me? Yes, that. I'm distracted from my thoughts by the sight of Emmy tearing into her lunch as if it had insulted her ancestors. "You seem pretty hungry." Emmy looks up, mouth half full, and swallows before nodding. "My morning run always works up an appetite." "Which is great, because then I burn through lunch pretty quickly. Helps me keep my girlish figure."
"What would happen if you'd lose it? Would you become a man?"
I very nearly choke on my lunch trying not to laugh. "It's a figure of speech."
"Does your figure have to run in the mornings too?"
Do you always talk like this?
"Talk like what?" "Like what?"
I think that answers my question. Never mind. So, I struggle to think of small talk and settle on the obvious question. How'd you two meet? Reen seems content to let Emmy answer this question.
"Someone in the housing department thought that we'd complement each other well, so we were assigned rooms next to one another."
Complement each other?
"Like shoes and a suit."
Huh? Emmy giggles at my confusion.
"Put us together and we've got all our limbs. Get it?"
Ah.
"So, I started helping Reen get ready in the mornings, and that was that." "I mean, you can't help someone get dressed every morning and not get along."
I see.
Reen chooses this moment to interject. "I have trouble with shirts."
Right, that seems fairly obvious.
"Really?"
Kind of? This isn't helping, but at least Emmy seems to find the whole thing funny. That, combined with the fact that Reen is genuinely curious, makes me feel slightly better, and yet confused. I mean, you've got no arms. So, putting on a shirt seems like one of those things that would be difficult. You know what? I'm just going to stop talking now. It'll save me a lot of trouble in the long run. Reem nods in what I suspect is meant to be a sage manner.
I see.
The conversation dies as I turn my attention back to lunch. It's really quite good. Emmy finishes her lunch first and makes a contented noise. That was good. As she busies herself cleaning up her lunch, Reem speaks up.
I'm thirsty.
Oh, I almost forgot about that. Sorry. With a flourish, she reaches into her bag and removes a trio of juice boxes. She tosses me one that appears to be cranberry juice, one to Reen that appears to be some kind of strawberry milk, complete with pink color scheme, and keeps an equally pink box of some kind of fruit punch for herself. Reen dexterously stabs her straw through the top of her box and begins to drink. I'm once again impressed by how flexible she is, but this time I keep my comment to myself. Somehow I don't think either Emmy or Reen are the sorts of people to think twice about the way they work around their particular disabilities. Reen especially so. Indeed, she gives out the impression of being entirely unaware that she's missing any limbs at all. If she was born this way, then yes, this absolutely, she has never lived her life any differently than this. Whether or not that's a conscious decision is another matter. I'm honestly not sure. So, Hisao, how do you like it up here? It's quite nice, actually. I like high places, for the view. Thanks for inviting me up here. And for the lunch, too. Emmy grins a 1,000-watt grin, pleased by my response, I suppose. No problem. Feel free to eat with us next time, too, okay? I won't make you a lunch, but you can bring your own up here. No lunch service? Well, no. Emmy looks mock offended. Trying to take advantage of my good nature? The nerve! She giggles. Well, if that's your answer, I guess Reen and I will just keep leading lunch all alone. I'm suddenly assaulted by the most heartrending puppy dog eyes I've ever seen as Emmy pouts. Kidding, I was kidding. I'd love to eat lunch up here again. Good location, and the company's okay too. Emmy frowns a bit at my declaration of okay, but seems happy enough that I've accepted her invitation. I guess that makes us friends now. Or at least acquaintances. The lunch bell rings, signaling a return downstairs. Reen, you didn't finish your lunch again.
I wasn't that hungry.
If you don't eat more, you're going to fade away. Reen shrugs, as if this is an acceptable risk. Come on, we'd better get going. The three of us head down the stairs together. The afternoon class passes. Once again, I find myself without a plan for something to do after school, so I head to the library to return a couple of the books I finished reading. Walking inside, I see that there are about as many students here as there were on Tuesday, all the more evident from the almost total silence enveloping the room. As I drop the books I borrowed into the return slot in the counter, Yuko suddenly pops up from behind it, quite startled from the banging they make as they hit the trolley next to her. Oh, sorry, Yuko. Didn't mean to startle you. No, that's fine. It happens a lot. I'm used to it by now. Can I help you? It's okay. I think I know where everything is. Thanks anyway. Suppose I grab another book or two while I'm here. There's not much else to do, and after reading so much during my stay in the hospital, it's become a hard habit to break. I wander down to the fiction section towards the back of the library, scanning the bookshelves for anything that catches my eye. As I do, I look over to the corner where Hanako had been the last time I was here, not really expecting anything to come of it. Surprisingly, though, she's there, absorbed completely in a fairly thick book. I decide against intruding on her like last time and get back to finding reading material. After an indiscernible amount of time spent perusing the aisles, I finally decide on a couple of books and get and slide them off the shelf. With a minimum of fuss, I walk over to the counter, check out my books, and pop them into my bag as I walk out. By the time I leave the main building, sunset isn't too far away. A small trickle of students remain, but the majority have left, presumably to their homes and dorms. Feeling utterly drained, I head to my room to read the books I borrowed. There's been enough action and excitement for one day already. The first is Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. I know the story, of course, but I've never actually read the original book. Then you, sir, do not know the story. You have the faintest inkling of the story. That book is a drug trip in one of the most interesting piles of craziness ever. It's just as trippy as I remember the story to be, with the wacky characters and nonsense plot. I start thinking of myself as some kind of an Alice too, haplessly tumbling down the rabbit hole into this cripple wonderland. Okay, that's a rather strong expression. Still, the isolated location and the overt way the school accommodates to absolutely everything is unsettling. It is like another world. I wonder why I can't shake the feeling of being an outsider like Alice, despite most everyone being so hospitable and friendly with me. Dude, you've been here like 4 days. Turning another page, my mind starts drifting further away from the book. It's quiet. I can hear my heartbeat thumping against the fabric of my shirt. For some reason, it makes me feel really bad, like it has since that time in the forest with Iwanako. Like I was locked in a cage with something nasty and scary. I put the book down for a while and stare at the ceiling, taking my time to shake off the feeling. 200 pages later, I fall asleep. Another day passes, and I believe that today, the festival is tomorrow. The students roll into class for the Saturday morning session, each and every one of them sporting the tired eyes of people who have worked through the night. With only a day left to prepare, I suppose it's not so surprising. Thankfully, we only have to suffer through classes until the lunch break, and then our time is our own. Muto lurches into class in a tired stagger. I suppose students aren't the only people here that enjoy their late Friday nights. Without saying a word, he scrawls some page and question numbers on the board and slumps down at his desk. It's completely atypical behavior for him, but it appears that no one in the class is going to call him out on it. Wordlessly, the students shuffle their textbooks into position and get to work. Not wanting to break the trend, I do the same. Fatigue has made the class antisocial. Not a peep is heard among the ruffling papers. That can partly be attributed to the 2 empty seats behind me. For some reason, Misha and Shizune aren't present, probably doing council work for the festival. It's very quiet without Misha present. I wonder if she was born as rowdy as she is, or if she is making up for Shizune's lack of voice. Nakai, can I speak with you for a moment? I'm so engrossed in thinking about Misha that I don't even notice Muto approaching my desk. Sure, what's this about? It's probably better if we speak outside the classroom. Something about this doesn't sound too good, but I stand up and follow him out into the hallway. Muto stands in the hallway, scratching his head as he works out what he is trying to say. Not knowing what's going on, I wait silently. I heard from the school's head nurse that you had an incident the other day. Ah, so it's about that. Well, kind of, but it's not anything to be worried about. Yes it is. Anything that can endanger your health is something to be worried about. We try our best here to prepare you for life. Okay, I did read that right. Part of that involves knowing your limits and how to work around them. It would be remiss of me if I didn't speak up about this. All right, I get it. I'm sorry. Muto closes his eyes in frustration, and I realize that this probably wasn't the best thing to say. Something tells me that you're not sorry. Pretend as much as you want, but this isn't a normal school. A lot of people have put in a lot of time, effort, and money to make sure that you and every other student here can have the same level of education as your peers. For you to abuse that by throwing out advice, especially medical advice, is plain selfish. Not quite sure if this is actually how he feels, or if it's some act that he's practiced many times to guilt trip students into doing the right thing. Either way, it's working. I understand. This is all new to me, and I apologize. I know my limits now, and I'll be sticking to them. Muto appears to lighten up a little, satisfied that his message has been received. So then, on to my next question. How are you finding your studies? I understand you were laid up for a while. We're not too far ahead, are we? I don't really think so. I tried to keep up when I was in the hospital, so it hasn't been too hard. Muto taps his chin and raises an eyebrow as he absorbs this information. Is that so? I suppose there are still students out there who realize the importance of learning. I wouldn't go that far. I was only trying to keep myself occupied in my little life support prison. Well, yeah. You've got to keep up with these things, right? That's exactly it. One wrong move in this world and you're left behind, right? Right. Wouldn't want that to happen. No. No, you wouldn't. Every week there's a new scientific discovery. Most of them need nothing to the layperson, but any one of them could be the key to the next big thing. I'll keep that in mind. It's obvious that Muto's serious talk is over, and he's gone back to his standard, slightly scatterbrained approach to life. I think, in hindsight, that I prefer him this way. He's slightly more predictable in his unpredictability. Well then, I think that's really all I had to say. Let's get back inside, shall we? My relief at that suggestion is insurmountable. Sure, you're the boss, right? Muto pauses for a moment. I don't think any of my students have ever said that to me before. For an instant, I consider replying to this, but something deep within me tells me to shut my mouth and get back into the classroom. A few of the students jump at the sound of the door, rapidly trying to pretend that they are working on the questions on the board. Some don't even bother, their heads slumped on the desk as they nap. Thankfully, it would appear that Muto does not even notice them. He returns to his desk and retrieves a scientific journal from one of his drawers. I guess I got to him there. The class returns to the near silence that Muto and I left it in before our chat. Mixed feelings of tiredness and anticipation buzz around the room. Everyone here is either waiting for a chance to rest or the chance to get their last-minute preparations underway. The clock on the wall slowly ticks the remaining class time away, until finally the bells cry out, ending the torment. Before you all leave, I expect the answers for those problems by Monday. The class size is 1, instantly regretting slacking off, but still acutely aware of the more pressing issues at hand. The classroom empties in a blink as everyone rushes to their last-minute festival preparations. I stay behind and try to quickly finish the questions so I don't have to bother with it over the rest of the weekend, with the festival and all tomorrow. Apart from me, Hanako is the only one left, obviously waiting for Lily. It's weird that Lily comes all the way to our classroom to pick her up. I expect that moving around is at least nominally harder for her than it is for Hanako. But it's none of my business, and I naturally don't ask about it from Hanako. Despite the relative proximity of our seats, neither tries to strike up a conversation about that or anything else either, so an oppressive silence falls upon the classroom. Time passes in silence. It's probably just 15 minutes or so, but it feels longer. I turn pages of my notebook. Hanako turns pages of the novel she's reading. My pencil lead splinters against the paper just when I was about to finish a paragraph. The sound of my irritated sigh and subsequent fumbling around for a sharpener feel like they're breaking the mood in the classroom. Hanako keeps her eyes firmly away from my direction. Before long, Lily's tall figure appears in the doorway. Hanako. Her name is all it takes to make Hanako jump up from her desk and run to Lily. They talk quietly for a moment, but it isn't long before Lily leaves down the hall and Hanako idles back into the classroom, taking her seat once again. I watch Hanako out of the corner of my eye out of sheer curiosity at the idea that the two would be separated. For a couple of minutes, she does nothing but sit with her chin in her hand, staring at the desk dejectedly. The boredom evidently becomes too much for her, though, her slender frame reaching into her bag and pulling out a small book. Come to think of it, that isn't the one I saw her reading at the library. She must be quite a fast reader to get through them at this rate. After about 10 minutes of restlessly shuffling in her seat and trying to read, Hanako closes her book and leaves too. As should I, since the assignment is all but finished, and there is nothing else to do in the classroom. Not that I have anything to do anywhere else, either. The school is a beehive of activity, but nobody pays me any heed. I saunter past classrooms filled with students, frantically doing this and that, buzzing around like little worker bees. You wouldn't guess the school day is over. It's a bit quieter outside, but not by much. People zip by left and right, hurrying as quickly as they can, busy and energetic. I feel the opposite. The midday sun seems to be draining all the spirit out of my body, making it feel limp all over. I think I just yawn because I find this to be very relaxing to record. Warm, soft air flows inside my shirt, feeling like a cushion. I yawn lazily, thinking about what I'd do. I'll drop off my books at the dorms first, and then something. I haven't decided yet. Maybe Kenji is in his room. Don't go see Kenji. I don't like Kenji. On the way to the dorms, I spot Emmy coming my way, running despite not having those weird running prosthetics on. I wave at her and she skids to a stop. Yo, Hisao! Spatters of white and green paint adorn her nose and chin respectively, but her smile is wide, as it seems it always is. She leans closer to me, amplifying the feeling she is examining me. What you doing? Nothing really. I don't have anything to do for the festival, and everyone else seems to be doing something important. That's perfect! Then you can help me and Reen. With the festival preparations? I'm not sure I would be much help. That's fine. I'm not much help either. Emmy grabs my wrist and starts dragging me back inside the school quite forcefully. Even her walking speed is more like jogging, making me stumble over myself simply trying to keep up. The stairs slow Emmy down a little. Maybe it's hard to climb with her legs. Or maybe she's finally out of breath. We go all the way back to the 3rd floor into the seniors' hallway, ending up where I left 5 minutes ago. I could just as well have stayed here waiting for Emmy had I known. So, is Reen working on that mural still? That's right. She needs all kinds of paints and brushes and stuff, so I went to get them from the art classroom. And you need me to help with that. Well, Reen told me you had already helped her, so I thought you wouldn't mind. I see. So thanks to Emmy's flaky logic, here I am again collecting stuff from the art classroom for other people. The room is empty apart from ourselves and lonely specks of dust floating in the air. Emmy skips straight away to the back wall, digging out a tiny, crumpled piece of paper from her pocket. I really could get lost in this. It's just very pleasant and relaxing. And I hope it is just as pleasant for you. And I will see you all on the next one.